Good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Archit Seshadri. The time now is 9:30 a.m. in New York, 2:30 in London, and 7 p.m. here in New Delhi. On tonight's show, we'll take a look behind us. No guesses. We're going to focus on Bollywood's success at the international level. Why do so many Indian movies like Bahubali 2 do so well? Bahubali 2 has already shattered box office records not only in India but around the globe. Aamir Khan's movie Dangal has done exceptionally well in China, raking in more than $90 million since its release just a few weeks back. So tonight, we want to focus in and find out why Indian films do so well, what is the formula behind this success, and why do they resonate with a global audience. But first, let's take a look with Dangal's success. Bollywood superstar Aamir Khan made waves across India and around the globe. His fan followings were excited. They were really shocked, especially when it did so well in China. The film is doing exceptionally well there since its May 5th release. Here's a report.
When Aamir Khan's Three Idiots and PK performed well at the Chinese box office, the word was loud and clear that the superstar enjoys a great fan base in the country. His superstardom wasn't appreciated only among Chinese locals. Actor Jackie Chan too was all praised for the Three Idiots actor. History repeated itself with Aamir's recent big release, Dangal. The film broke all records at the domestic market and collected $3.88 billion. Dangal became the first non-Hollywood film in China to earn $117 million at the Chinese box office. The film, which is based on the life of Indian wrestler Mahavir Singh Phogat, trumped the record of Your Name, a Japanese fantasy drama which netted $84 million at the box office last year. Currently, Dangal is running in about 7,000 screens in China and has become as popular as Raj Kapoor's Avara in 1950. Following Dangal's footsteps, another big-budget Indian film, Bahubali 2, is on its way for a huge release in the Chinese market. SS Rajamouli's magnum opus made $15 billion worldwide and is yet to conquer the Chinese box office. Will Bahubali 2 take over Dangal in China? We'll let time decide. Bureau Report, WION.
All right, to get more perspective on this story, of course, we want to talk to our esteemed list of panelists. But first, let's go to WION's correspondent, Raghavendra Rao, getting us insight on this story. Raghavendra, what is it about Bollywood movies that do so well? Firstly, we'll start with China. You know, movies like PK, movies like Dangal have done phenomenally well. What's the secret behind the success outside of India, you know, to hear Aamir Khan speak in a language that's not Hindi?
Well, absolutely. And isn't it amazing how well these Indian films, these Bollywood films have been doing of late in China? The trend actually was started by Aamir Khan himself when he first took Three Idiots to China, and that film was met with an unprecedented response. The kind of box office collections it got in China were the real trigger for him to and for other producers also to start taking their films in China. Now, primary reason for this is that China is adding a lot many single screens every month in that country. In fact, there are projections that the country would soon be adding around 9,000 more single screens, and there is a huge audience that has got created over the past few years in China, which likes to go out and see films in cinema halls. So an entire generation, an entire culture is getting developed in China, and the kind of proximity, geographic proximity these two countries have. Although there may not be very many cultural similarities, but the Chinese do see content coming in from India as relatable. They relate to many of the things which they see. Like Dangal, if you talk about Dangal, the Chinese, the response there has been so good because the people there have identified with the kind of subject matter wherein a father is actually promoting his daughters to take up wrestling as a sport. Now, that is something which the Chinese audiences have lapped up completely. The feeling there is that, even in Chinese society, women, it takes a lot for women to, get themselves heard and get themselves noticed and make a mark for themselves in their lives. So they've related to the idea, they've related to the concept, and that is probably what is driving Dangal's success there.
Raghavendra, going back to Dangal specifically, I was reading an interesting article in the way the Chinese media was covering it. A lot of people did like it because they could perhaps resonate to the Asian values and how it is very similar, in China as well as India. But there were some people that were actually disappointed, saying that, it is a very it focuses a lot of the father figure, a very patriarchal movie. So interesting response, even though it's done so well. There are certain things that I guess India and China perhaps don't see eye to eye.
Well, absolutely, but the larger message of the film is towards it's not patriarchal at all. And in fact, it's about breaking through these social ills, so to say, wherein girls are not given opportunities, they are discouraged to take up sport, and while those concerns, while those social issues have been raised in the film, the eventual message is a very positive message, wherein at the end of it all, it is a success story, and that is what driving the film, and that is something which the audiences are able to relate to.
All right, let's now go to one of our guests joining us this evening to talk about this story. Aamir Bajaj, a cinematographer who has worked closely with many directors with regards to movies and films. Aamir, thanks for joining us on the show. My question to you is, Dangal has done exceptionally well, not just here in India, but in China, raking in the numbers. We do know Aamir Khan is someone who said that he doesn't perhaps necessarily stick by that, but certainly a lot of his movies do well. Three Idiots, PK, and now Dangal making extraordinary waves at the box office in China. Why is that the case? Why do the Chinese love their Bollywood?
I mean, one thing is, I don't know how many films have got a chance to release there. And it has to be, one has to give the credit to Aamir for creating the content that people relate to. It's always about the content.
It's always about the content, certainly, but there's also been some opposition. There's some people who watched Dangal in China say it really, they weren't too thrilled the fact that it was very male-centric, even though it was about raising the daughters, it was very patriarchal. So interesting analogy there, perhaps India and China not agreeing in terms of that, even if the movie did bring in the numbers. Aamir?
Even I had my reservations when I watched Dangal. Yes, I also felt this was a very patriarchal look at raising the daughters, because you need the man at the end of the day. Whether it was Dangal or it was Pink, they both needed men to do things for women. So even I had that reservations. But it's I don't know. I don't really think I'm the right person probably to answer that. What works, what doesn't work. It's just that sometimes people just connect with the movie.
Absolutely.
There's no really formula to it.
Let's switch gears and talk about Bahubali 2. Bahubali 2 is not actually, it's an Indian movie, but it's not from the film world of Bollywood. A lot of people outside, don't realize they sometimes mix that India has many film industries. Of course, Kollywood in the south, Tollywood and the Telugu-speaking population of India. Bahubali 2 has broken so many records, not just in India, dubbed in Malayalam, Tamil, Hindi, done phenomenally well. And there's not a lead Bollywood actor in any of that. It is a regional cinema that has really broken records. Why is Bahubali 2 enjoyed success not only in India, but also outside? The NRI markets really enjoying this cinema spectacular movie.
I think it's the pride. It's really the pride. I was talking to one of my friends in LA, who is a producer, and I forced him to go and see the full film. And he said, that looks very tacky. So that was his reaction. He said, but numbers are not saying the same thing. They're singing a different tune.
And the numbers continue to grow day by day. We see the results. The people are still watching it, now more than it released April 28th, almost a month. And every day we see more and more numbers growing.
I haven't heard of this before, that a film show starting at 3 o'clock in the morning, 3 a.m. That's where Hyderabad was doing. 3 a.m. they started the show. And still there were no tickets available.
Right.
So I agree with your thoughts. on that. But is the pride? I mean, when I also went to see the film twice actually, and with a couple of my friends, and I was like, not bad. I wish they had 500 crores more to pull this off. But that was my thought as a technician.
Right, the technical aspects perhaps are certainly, doing exceptionally well. We're going to come back to our discussion in just a second, but we also want to talk about some of the other movies that have done really well outside of Dangal and Bahubali 2. Bahubali 2 will release in China in just shortly, not released just yet, but many Bollywood movies have grabbed global attention. China, as we mentioned, long enticed Bollywood with its massive screen count of nearly 40,000 screens, seen the release of quite a few big-ticket Indian films over the year. Raj Kapoor's star Avara was one of the big hits in China, the early introduction to Indian cinema there, our India's neighbor. The film co-starred Nargis and was remembered for the iconic Avara song across the Indian subcontinent, including China, as well as in many countries like Russia. Next comes Rajkumar Hirani's comedy drama, Three Idiots, getting global attention, with Aamir Khan, Madhavan, Kareena Kapoor in lead roles. The movie fetched nearly 16 crore rupees in China alone. Next we go to The King Khan, Shah Rukh Khan, starring in My Name is Khan. The Karan Johar drama was the first Indian film to be released in China. The film starred Shah Rukh Khan and Kajol, made 50 lakh rupees in the box office collections. Delhi Safari, the 3D computer animated comedy directed by Nikhil Advani, made about 11 crore rupees in China. The bilingual also won the National Award for the Best Animated Film for the year for the voices of Akshay Khanna, Govinda, Sunil Shetty, Bowman Irani, and Urmila Matondkar.
Splatter their guts all over the jungle.
Whoa! I know it's a hard concept, but fighting's not the answer to everything.
How the heck are you?
Well, the Yash Raj film's action thriller Doom 3 that featured Aamir Khan, Abhishek Bachchan and Katrina Kaif also earned 24 crore rupees in the box office collections in China. And of course, Aamir Khan, when he was an alien, we saw him that Avatar as well. And PK, which released in 2014, well, this was the highest grossing Indian film in China and made about 123 crore rupees after it was strategically planned and promoted in China.
समझते हो ना? सैंपल था वो. गलतियां सुधारने की आदत थी उसे.
Shah Rukh Khan's musical comedy Happy New Year fetched about 2 crore rupees in China.
दुनिया में दो तरह के लोग होते हैं, winners and losers. लेकिन जिंदगी हर loser को वो एक मौका जरूर देती है.
Manish Sharma's psychological thriller Fan was also released in China, playing Shah Rukh Khan in double roles as himself as well as his biggest fan. That movie starred and made about 1.5 crore rupees in the box office in China. So again, quite a few movies that have done well in China and abroad. So I don't want to limit this discussion to only China. Let me go really quickly to Raghavendra Rao standing by. Raghavendra, let's go back to, what is the secret behind Indian films doing so well outside of India? Certainly in India, we can imagine that, people love their cinema in India. They love watching and escaping reality, but for a country like China, the US and other parts of the world where perhaps some of those song and dance is not as widely known or accepted, you don't see that in Hollywood movies typically, but what is the secret behind Bollywood's international success? Raghavendra?
Archit, let me put it this way. I mean, at the end of it, it all boils down to the quality of the content. And all these movies which have done well outside of India, all said and done, they had very solid content. They had solid storylines. They were scripted beautifully. They were executed very, very professionally. So all of these projects, be it Three Idiots or PK or Dangal, for instance, all of these films are good examples of storytelling. These are films which tell a narrative in a way which has a trans-Indian appeal. It's just the language which acts as a barrier at times. But the fact that if a Dangal or a PK could be dubbed in Chinese and could still get so many people to come to the theaters just goes on to show that good content has takers anywhere and everywhere. Also the fact that there is something called an early mover advantage, and I would reckon Aamir Khan was the first one in Bollywood to spot a potential market in China, because also the fact that his films have done particularly well in China, also goes on to show that he probably has, developed an audience for himself there. And already an audience is there which looks forward to Aamir Khan's films, has already seen and liked a few of his films, and they really anticipate whenever he comes up with a new film. That is also probably the reason why some of the other Bollywood films which have been released in China, the response was somewhat lukewarm. It was not as great as the response to some of the films which were produced and by Aamir Khan, and in which he acted as well too. So it's something like, there was a time when the legendary actor Raj Kapoor, he had an immense following in even countries like Russia. His songs people still recall in countries like Russia and some other countries of the erstwhile Soviet Union. It's something of that kind. Aamir has spotted an opportunity. He has, discovered a new market. China was a territory which was lying unexplored for years. And while Indian films were being released in other countries, they were primarily catering to the NRIs settled in, say, UK or the US. So China was one territory which nobody was even thinking of as a potential market. So for that, full credit to Aamir to identify that market and take his films there to China, and the results are already showing.
All right, let's go to Asim Bajaj, also standing by in Mumbai. Asim, you've won several awards in the film fraternity world, acknowledged for your work. You've dealt with actors and directors and producers and the whole film clan. When it comes to making a movie, let's sort of take a step back and talk about that. When a movie is being made, does distribution, and talking about which areas, as we just heard from my colleague Raghavendra, hey, this movie will do well in India as well, but what about the global markets? Is that conversation now being addressed by directors and producers to really get the best bang for their buck?
Yes, it is, but there's a very particular section of filmmakers who are concerned with that. We are as Raghavendra said, content really matters. I agree with that. But see, the thing is, we are a very self-sufficient market. We are making movies for Indians, whether it is in India or an Indian abroad. But we are making movies which are focused and which are made for Indians. There are very few filmmakers. There are very few films which are being made for international market with that perspective.
Let me also ask you about, Slumdog Millionaire. Rewind a few years back, that movie certainly did well. It was shot in India, in Mumbai, in a lot of the slum areas. It certainly picked up awards at the international level of the Oscars. But a lot of people didn't feel, especially in India, I understand, didn't feel that this was a true representation. How important for you as a filmmaker, someone who is in the industry, for your work to be not just showcased to an Indian audience, but to the global audience, not just the global Indian? How important of that recognition is it to you?
I remember those times when Slumdog came in, and when it came out, and a lot of people were offended, in fact, that this is not the true representation of us. But that, I'm sorry, I disagree with that. It is the true representation of us. Look at us. We go to Singapore. We go to Switzerland to do songs. They didn't come here and put up sets. No, they didn't do that. We put up sets and make our movies. They came here, shot the reality, whatever is the reality. But we shy away from that. We don't want to accept that this is our reality.
And when it comes to Indian cinema, Asim, last year we saw, a slew of movies that have done really well, sort of breaking away from the traditional mold of song and dance. Certainly that formula exists in Bollywood, your Bollywood film with a good storyline, your lead actor or actress or combination of the two. But we saw movies that really focused on social messages, movies like Pink, movies that really sort of broke the barriers. Do you think those movies, that India needs to churn out more movies like that, or the whole formula, the Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gum, the movies that are typically, your heroine falls in love and they live happily ever after, is what people want? What's your stance on that?
As you mentioned earlier, we are a country that subscribes to cinema of escapism. And we are a very, very patriarchal society. In Pink, it's a very, very manipulated. I'm sorry to say this, but I felt very manipulated. it was not a film that was talking about women empowerment. You needed an Amitabh Bachchan to say no means no. So how is that messaging? That's a wrong messaging, you know, that's a wrong message driven home.
All right, well, with that, we're going to have to wrap it up. So 3 final words. Let me first go to Raghavendra Rao. 3 final words about Bollywood's international success, and then we'll come to Asim. Raghavendra, your turn.
Well, if it has to be limited to 3 words, I would say India has arrived.
India has arrived. All right, and Asim, 3 final words about Bollywood's international success.
Waiting to arrive.
All right, interesting, waiting to arrive. All right, thank you both to Asim Bajaj as well as Raghavendra Rao for your inputs on this discussion. We appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.